My name's Alan. I'm calling from Goldman. How are you?
I'm good, Alan. I'm good. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Nice weather. I'm gonna may work less than a full day today to get out and enjoy some of it. Is this still a good time to speak?
Yes, yes, sir. It's a good time to speak, and we can get ahead and get started.
Okay, great, cool. So let me just quickly run through how this will go. I'm gonna spend like 5 minutes or so explaining SRE at Goldman and what we do. So I'll talk for a bit, and I'll have a few questions for you, and then I'll probably leave the last 10 minutes or so for you to ask any questions that you have about the role or Goldman or anything like that.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So SRE at Goldman it's a relatively new discipline. I've only been in the organization for about a year, and I think the organization only existed for maybe another year or so prior to that. So it's relatively new as kind of a formal discipline at Goldman. The general philosophy is to hire SRE generalists into Goldman who can work in any number of areas, and then find homes for them. There's far more teams looking to do SRE at Goldman right now than there are engineers. So there's kind of a number of teams out there kind of looking for the same types of people. So typically the way it works is we'll hire somebody who can do kind of general SRE work. And by SRE work, I mean like reliability engineering as opposed to DevOps functions. So things to reduce toil and improve the availability of systems as opposed to more traditional DevOps in terms of like build deploy type stuff. So we hire those people in, get them familiar with the systems that we use and the tech stack at Goldman. Maybe have them go on call for like one or two different projects, and then figure out like. So we spend maybe the first like month almost kind of pitching to the person which team they want to go with, and there's some choice and opportunity in terms of I like what this team is doing, the things I did with them more than with this other group. It's never quite that simple. Sometimes we have to kind of put our thumb on the scale a little bit and direct people towards one place or another if there's an urgent need. But what I described is our practice in general. The other thing to mention is, so the ideal SRE engagement would look like, each team that was using SRE would have an on-call shift that had 6 people spread across 2 different locations. And so that's 12 people times however many teams are looking for SRE assistance, which adds up to a lot of people very quickly at an organization as big as GS. So in addition to the model I mentioned, the more traditional SRE model, which we do, but we staff up a small number of teams using this model. We also have like a client engagement model where some people from the core SRE org will embed themselves with a different team at Goldman who's looking to build up their SRE capabilities. They'll stay with them for 4 to 6 months, learn best practices, and like the SRE people will be learning, like they'll be getting their hands on the code and helping to instrument and get monitoring alerting set up and get them to the point where they're able to staff an on-call rota out of people that they have from their team. So, if there's a 70-person development org at Goldman, a few SREs would come in, spend 6 months with them, get a rotation set up with 12 or 15 of those 70 people, and then kind of slowly exit and move on to the next thing. So that's the other model that we operate under at GS.
Okay.
Any immediate questions on any of that before I jump into some other?
No, I think I'm good as of now. Maybe at the end of the call I might have.
Yep. Cool. So can you walk me through at your either your current role or prior role, you walk me through in some detail, like places where you've applied SRE, practices and principles, and just in a little bit of detail?
Yes, yes. So basically, in the previous project, I was actually working as a site reliability and engineer with the Exelon. So basically, there I was actually working on the various kinds of SRE management and setting up the end-to-end practices for monitoring, alerting, and uptime of multiple sites. So we were responsible for setting up the end-to-end multiple sites on the alternate availability zones, and then once we've created those availability zones based on the backend infrastructure, I was responsible for setting up health checks and managing and maintaining those health checks across multiple clusters in this case. And I was also responsible for handling the implementation of the ITSM methodologies inside that, setting up the on-call methodologies, escalation matrices, and performing the analytics on the last known data so that we can actually handle the the compliance and audit on top of that. I was also responsible for handling the enhancement and bug fixes and releasing them into the production environment, and then trying to also work on the operational and engineering uptime of the platforms to make sure that the end-to-end services are working fine and the routing of the application is done properly. We were using failover routing in the Route 53 for DNS and trying to make sure that we are having uptime of more than 99.9% SLA. I was also responsible for fixing production issues and deploying application patches on those environments, and then enhancing the new projects based on the requests from the bug fixes before the release environments, and then trying to work on the on-call and trying to give coverage to the main APIs which were using and used by various service stakeholders. Uh, I was also responsible
Okay.
for, yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sorry. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think I got the gist of what you were saying there.
Mhm.
You mentioned having SLAs in place. So like, how did you like what tools or processes did you use to measure your performance against that SLA, and like what did you do when or was there ever a time where you were in danger of not meeting it, and how did you respond?
So basically, we had a P1 issue in one of the production applications wherein the load balancer was not responding due to some issue in the application health check. And the health check was not working because of some issues with the backend database. So we had a P1 issue, which is a priority one issue. And then some of the client side people were not really happy about the fact that the entire application is kind of down, and we have this problem on our systems. So basically, that is one thing which caused the problem. And apart from that, I would like to say that also had some of the people who were engaged with talking with the people, the client side, and explaining them the situation. So it was a P1. We had to explain them the situation every 15 minutes. So it was a kind of a challenge because sometimes what was happening is we are not able to find out what is the problem with the application and then the source code and whatever is actually happening on those application sides. So we have to go and fix that, and then look at how we could get the application source code checked into the repository so that the developers can promote that code on the third-party environment and try to handle it on the source code management system. So that was also one of the things which was being done. So we were doing it in terms of getting those services uptime resolved on those services. So we were trying to resolve the uptime of those major machines and trying to restart some services so that we can actually make sure that the threads are released. So some of the applications were holding a lot of database threads over there. So since the client is non-technical, they don't understand what threads mean and all, so they just want to know why it happened and why we are not able to understand before time. So we explained them that this is an unprecedented situation. We are looking into it and we are actually planning for a full deep root cause analysis on this after this is resolved. So the client said, okay, you go ahead and do whatever it takes to get it resolved. So we've sat on the table. We actually checked and ran the application in the debug mode with the developers, and we were able to understand from our site of the logs that there were some new changes in the code which caused the way the application creates and releases database pool requests. So we had to roll back those changes, Okay. Once those changes were rolled back, we actually sent a report to the client that, okay, this is the problem, this is what we did, and this is what we fixed. Then we had a root cause analysis meeting with the client, wherein we had to explain to the client what measures we have taken so that this same issue doesn't come again in the next time. Okay. That is one thing. So that
Right.
was kind of one of the
Yep.
problem. Yeah. So yeah, that's like a high level of the issue.
Sure. So in that case, like how long? So I guess how did you determine like what some of the follow-up steps were, and not from a technical aspect in terms of like how you debugged it, but like if there were follow-ups that needed like investment to be made, like was there any kind of decision process around whether to spend time guarding against this happening again versus other like work and priorities?
Definitely, there was a push from the management that we have to fix the problem first and then also set up additional monitoring so that in case if it happens again, we are able to detect early and diagnose the problem early. So we actually did set up a
Okay.
couple of checks in the monitoring system so that we get alerted just in case it comes back. And it had to be fixed by developers. So we had to open a defect request with the developers so that we could make sure that this is fixed right from where it originated, that is inside the code. Apart from that, I would like to say I also had some of the other meetings with the client wherein we had to convince them about the fact that this is not something which was built right from day one into the application. This is something which was added as part of the recent changes in the code, which neglected or maybe
Yep.
overlooked the way how application is creating connections to the database. So, the client quite understood that. And we actually showed them the changes which were made and why those were made. Like we wanted to optimize and reduce. So there was some changes in the logic, which I really don't remember now, which the developers made. And they actually added some new checks in place which would garbage collect old connections if they're not used for the last couple of minutes or there is no active thread processing some upstream SQL query or Hibernate query on that. So that kind of thing was there.
Yep.
So yeah, like it was
Okay.
pretty much a nice experience and it was a good learning on how to manage the client, what information to share with the client and what not, and how to show that it is actually a situation under control rather than a situation which is totally out of control and we are not able to manage it. So those things also we learned from the seniors and how they were, interacting with the client side. So yeah, like
Okay.
I would say it was a very enriching experience.
Okay. All right. Cool. Um, I'm going to ask a couple Linux questions, if that's
Hmm.
all right.
Yeah.
I see you have a couple flavors of Linux on your resume.
Hmm.
Um, can you just talk briefly about what a zombie process is and why it might be a problem?
Well, a zombie process is a process whose parent process, the process which has actually created it, has exited without killing or closing or ending the child. So there is a process which is there, which is not supposed to be there in the memory, and it doesn't have any parent is already exited. So there is no chance of any other process killing it. So it's going to be there in the memory, lurking around, going to eat a lot of memory and kind of drain the system resources, make the system slow. Maybe the the process heap is actually going to be filled with these processes, and then your entire system can be brought down. So this is the problem because you really don't want them to be there, and they eat up unnecessary resources on your system. So I would say this is the one of the primary reasons why they can be a problem, and they can actually cause your production servers, if at all you have a lot of zombie processes, they can kind of slow down the production servers, and that can really be
Okay.
a pain in the production systems and maybe a point of failure of your entire stack.
Yeah. So if you noticed that there were a series of zombies processes and you were concerned that they were causing an issue, what are things you would do to get rid of them?
Well, I can use the kill command. So in the top, I will do like ps aux and then grep for the program which is using the zombie, and then I can also use a command like kill dollar ps hyphen a and then the process ID and then awk and then slash z small z and capital Z. Actually, there is a long regex which I have in my snippets in my laptop, and these
Okay.
snippets really are good for finding zombie processes, for finding the top CPU consuming. So anything which a sysadmin should have. So one-liner, so to say. So
Okay.
you can use that one-liner to get rid
Okay.
of them, or you can use the advanced Python script which you can run in the cron every 5 minutes to clean up. So I found that on GitHub, very useful script. Really don't have to write a lot of that code in shell. It really gives you. It also sends you email reports if you want of the processes it has killed over the last 24 hours. And it also runs as a daemon if you don't want to run it in cron, just in case cron daemon dies and your servers are not rebooted for, let's say, years and years. So it also runs as a daemon if you want to configure it. So yeah, I've been using those kinds of scripts.
Okay.
I don't want to do that same manual kill across 1,000 servers because nowadays infrastructures usually get very big very quickly.
Yep. Okay. Cool. So now imagine you're in a Linux shell and you type the move command and you pass it a single argument, which is the asterisk symbol, and then you hit enter. What would happen?
Move space star, I think it will actually nullify the entire directory if you don't press anything. I'm not sure. I think it's a dangerous command to run because if you do mb star and it will kind of do a force move to the dev null. So basically, it will move all the directories to the dev null. This can be a big problem for an application which is running in production on multiple systems, you know.
Yep. Okay. All right. Cool. So I think we've covered the questions that I wanted to ask, and like I said, I wanted to leave the last 10 minutes or so for you to
Yes.
ask any questions that you have. So
E-
I'm going to turn things over to you at this point.
Definitely, yeah. So basically, I want to know like what is the team size and what is the day-to-day activities and what is the next steps in the interview process after here, from here.
Sure. So I'll cover next steps. So I'll write up my notes from this and pass things back. The next step after this would be there's some online there'd be basically an online coding interview that would happen. Following that would be what we're calling on-sites now. So a series of Zoom calls with usually 5 to 6 people to do basically what counts for an on-site interview these days. Um, and that's really it. So it's usually this initial phone screen, a coding interview, and then live interviews.
Okay.
So your questions on just the team size and day-to-day work. So it can vary. So so I mentioned we have a few different engagement models. So if somebody lands in it's the customer reliability engineering is what we call the embedded model, where people sit with feature teams. So if you're on one of those assignments, the team in terms of SRE engineers is small. So it's
Hmm.
usually 2 or 3 people from the SRE organization, but you're kind of helping to build and bootstrap an SRE organization within the team that you're sitting with. So the team size there will vary based on how big the target team is that you're landing with. Um, otherwise, if somebody's working on a more traditional SRE engagement, so places where SRE is holding the pager for other teams and really like responding to incidents, then like I said, the ideal size is about 12 people spread across 2 regions. I work on a team where we're trying something a little different. We're trying it across 3 regions, so we're aiming for 12 to 15 people across 3 regions. So that's about the team size there. The work that somebody would do is typically what the Google book would kind of say that SRE should be doing. So that is like 25% of on-call work, 50% of like reliability engineering. So automating things, instrumenting code, doing that type of work, and then 25% of other stuff. So like keeping the lights on, DevOps-y kind of things, and that type of work. So that would be the ideal. It can vary from team to team. To be honest, it's not always that ideal of a split, but that's kind of what the aim is.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm good as of now, and I think that was
Okay.
the only question I had as of now. Yeah, I think I'm good from my
Okay.
side.
Okay, great. Thanks for your time. It was good speaking with you, and someone will be in touch shortly.
All right, sounds good. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.